दिव्या चिंतामणि धाम रतनमंदिरम अभ्रताकालिंदिनी रे राजा हंस केली करे आहे शोभे कानक कामा अभ्रताकालिंदिनी रे राजा हंस केली करे आहे शोभे कानक कामा तारा मध्ये हेमा पीठा अष्टाडाले स्थिता अष्टाडाले प्रधान तारा मध्ये रत्नासाने श्यामा संगे सुंदरी राधिका दावानरमस्ता दिव्या चिंतामणि धाम रतन मंदिर मनोहर और बालावण्यसी आज्ञा परिचय खासी हास्य परिहास्य संभाषण दासा कोय नित्य लीला सुख मोय सदाय स्फुरत मोरा वृंदावन दिव्या चिंतामणि धाम रतन मंदिर हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
Hare Krishna Prabhujis and Matajis, Danvat Pranam. Once again, I thank you all for joining in the class. So before we start, we'll do the Manglacharan and then we'll make a start. So today we are going to discuss about Canto 4, Chapter 1. Okay. So let me do the prayers. Om Agyanti Virandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Amlitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Stute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah जय श्री कृष्णा चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधरा श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे हरे प्लीज recite with me ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम
ॐ
नमो
नमो
भगवते
भगवते
वासुदेवाय
वासुदेवाय
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय
ॐ
नारायण
नमो
नारायण नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयम् उदीरयेत् नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकीनन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः नमः पंकजनाभाय नमः पंकजमालिने नमः पंकजनेत्राय नमस्ते पंकजांग्रहे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामिने गौरत्विषे नमः नमो ब्राह्मण्याय देवाय गौ ब्राह्मण हिताय च जगद्धिताय कृष्णाय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः नमा ओम विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे जय श्री कृष्णा चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधरा शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे हरे श्री विष्णु श्री विष्णु Hare Krishna Prabhujis and Matajis, Dandvat Pranam to each one of you. Thank you for joining the class. I am utterly unqualified to give this class, but I'll do it as a service, and the service is really glorious because it helps us to study Srimad Bhagavatam. And I mean, as a speaker, it is, I mean, it is said that if you want to learn something, try to teach that to others, right? So it is a very glorious thing that we are discussing about Srimad Bhagavatam, and I'm really grateful for this opportunity where I can speak on Srimad Bhagavatam. I am, as I said, I am utterly unqualified, and it is just that I have been given this service that I'm going to talk about Srimad Bhagavatam. So so today we are going to discuss on chapter 4, Canto 4, chapter 1. Basically, the title of the chapter is Genealogical Table of the Daughters of Manu. So basically, we are talking about Swayambhu Manu and his descendants. And specifically, we are talking about the daughters of Manu, whom they were married to, and what were their progeny. And so we will discuss about all of this. So in Canto 3, we briefly talked about, basically Swayambhu Manu had 3 daughters, Akuti, Devahuti, Prasuti, and had 2 sons, Uttanapad and Priyavarta. So we had discussed in Canto 3 briefly, not briefly, we have discussed it in a lot of detail about Devahuti, right? How Devahuti was married to Kardamba Muni, and how she served Kardamba Muni with great devotion, and how Lord Kapila Dev, the incarnation of Supreme Personality of Godhead, was born in the womb of Devahuti, and how he gave knowledge to Devahuti. And we there is also a description about the daughters. Basically, there is no details about it, but there is a reference that there 9 daughters were born, and then Kardamba Muni basically left for the forest, and he gave up the householder life, and he went to the forest. So we had an introduction to one of the daughters of Swayambhu Manu, Devahuti, and then in this chapter we'll talk about a lot more in detail about the other daughters and also their progeny, and how the daughters of Devahuti were married to different sons of Brahma. So basically, Brahma had 10 sons. He had more than 10 sons, but we are talking about these 10 sons. And in Canto 3, there was a description about these 10 sons and how they were born. So basically, let's quickly look at it. So you can see that in text 22, it is mentioned that this is actually chapter 3, Canto 3, chapter 12. And there it is mentioned that Brahma had these 10 sons. So that the names of these 10 sons are Marichi, Atri, Angira, Pulatsaya, Pulaha, Kritu, Brigu, Vashishta, and Daksha, and Narada. So these are the 10 sons of Brahma, and as we can see that Narada was born from the deliberation of Brahma, and so on and so forth. So there is a description about these 10 sons of Brahma. Now these 10 sons of Brahma were married. I'm sorry, Narada Muni was not married. Narada Muni was a brahmachari, and the other 9 sons of Brahma were married to different daughters. To like basically daughters of Devahuti, and also to daughters of Manu. So we'll look at all these details in this chapter. So basically, this chapter will give us these details about the genealogical table. Basically, it describes the different vamshas, right? And it is important to understand this, because as different characters come in Bhagavatam, we must know how they are related. So it helps us to understand it better. We can also understand qualities of the person if you know from whom he is born, right? It is generally said that the children get the qualities of the parents, right? So if you know the genealogical table, or if you understand to whom they were born, you can also understand the qualities of the person. So and in Bhagavatam, different people are introduced at different places. So so it is good to have this understanding. And there are some very good purports in this chapter. And also this chapter describes about an incarnation of the Lord known as Lord Dattatreya, who was basically a combination of all the 3 primary deities like Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh, right? So Lord Dattatreya, the birth of Lord Dattatreya is also described in this chapter in Canto 4, chapter 1. So let's make a start. I would request people to read the translations as we go. So let's start, right? So 4.1.1. So I will not read the shlokas because the shlokas are mostly about, I mean, it just describes the names of the daughters and children and so on and so forth. So we'll directly go to translations. So this again, all this is part of the discussion which is happening between Maitreya Rishi and Vidura, right? We have seen this in Canto 3, Canto 2, that Maitreya Rishi is giving this knowledge to Vidura, and Vidura is the one who is questioning Maitreya Rishi about all of this. So Vidura asks questions about the primary creation, now which is the Sarga, and now Canto 4 describes the secondary creation, which is the Visarga, and Maitreya Rishi is answering questions raised by Vidura. So as let's read. Shri Maitreya said, Swayambhuva Manu begot 3 daughters in his wife Satarupa, and their names were Akuti, Devahuti, and Prasuti. Right. So we are talking about Swayambhu Manu, who is also a son of Brahma, and when Lord Brahma told Swayambhu Manu to start doing secondary creation, Swayambhu Manu said that he cannot, I mean, the earth, planet earth was, mother earth was actually submerged in the ocean, and that's when Lord Varahadev was born from the nostril of Brahma, and he brought back earth planet back to the orbit. So it starts from there, right? So Swayambhu Manu, one of the sons of Brahma, and he had 3 daughters as mentioned here, from the wife Satrupa, Akuti, Devahuti, and Prasuti. So now in this purport, now the significance of Canto 4 is like, I mean, from for us, like actually Prabhupada, when he went to America, he carried the 3 cantos, right? He had done the purports for 3 cantos of Bhagavatam, and he had taken those 3 cantos of Bhagavatam to America, and this 4th canto, I believe, was started in America, and that's where, if you see to the starting of the 4th canto, it's like a new beginning. Again, Prabhupada, that's why starts with offering his obeisances to his spiritual master, Om Vishnupadaya Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada. Right? He's offering his obeisances to Prabhupada before writing any purports to the 4th canto. This is like, for him, it's like a new, again, a new beginning for Bhagavatam. So that's why he's offering his obeisances, and you can see the gratitude which he has for his spiritual master, and this is one of the most important things that we must also have, is we must have gratitude for whatever we have. It is extremely important. If we look at us, we are actually very fortunate, all of us, right? I mean, we have a very decent, I mean, first of all, we are born in a human race, right? We are not animals. We have been born as a human being. Secondly, we are born in India, so we have access to good spiritual knowledge. Now, even if you look at it materially, we are very fortunate. We have everything what anybody else would aim for in life, right? We have a good job, we have a good house, we have everything. I mean, all kinds of material material facilities, not happiness, material facilities, I would say, and also access to very deep spiritual understanding and knowledge because of Prabhupada, right? Because of Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, right? So we must have that gratitude for that, and that is the gratitude which Prabhupada is expressing for his spiritual master. He is also offering his obeisances to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the 6 Goswamis and to the whole parampara. He's finally going to Radha and Krishna, and he's offering his obeisances to them. So that's how Prabhupada actually begins this 4th canto. And then he gives a brief description about what is present in the 4th canto of Bhagavatam. So there are 31 chapters, as he mentions here, and I mean, we saw the primary creation in Canto 3, and then the secondary creation by Brahma is described in Canto 4. That is what he's mentioning. Now, the important thing is, like, in the first chapter, there are descriptions of 3 daughters of Manu and their descendants. The next 6 chapters describe the sacrifice performed by King Daksha and how it was spoiled. So the story of Daksha and Lord Shiva will come here, and also how Sati left her body. So all that is described here. Then there are activities of Dhruva Maharaj, right? Dhruva Maharaj comes in the family of Uttanapat, right? One of the sons of Swayambhu Manu. And there are 5 chapters on Dhruva Maharaj, and then there are 11 chapters on the activities of King Pathu, and next 8 chapters are on the activities of Pracheta kings. So if you look at it, this Canto 4 basically describes about the descendants of King Uttanapat, and 5th canto will talk about the descendants of King Priyavarta, right? So these 2 sons of Swayambhu Manu and the descendants from these 2 kings are described in Canto 4 and 5, right? So that's how it is linked. And also the first chapter gives you about the details of all the children born of the different daughters of Swayambhu Manu. And because Swayambhu Manu has been entrusted to do the secondary creation by Brahma, all this description is present in the 4th canto. Now you might question, like, why is it so important? Now if you look at it, Parikshit Maharaj has only 7 days, and Shukdev Goswami is describing him all of this because this is all connected, and mm, the questions by it comes in the story of different questions raised by Vidura to Maitreya, and Shukdev Goswami is just trying to repeat what has been said, and it is also important for us, like, because Bhagavatam is also for us, not just Shukdev Goswami, not just for Parikshit Maharaj. We need to also understand all of these details, so that, as Prabhupada said, right, study my book scrutinizingly. We must also study Srimad Bhagavatam scrutinizingly. None of these is not important. I mean, we may think that, why do I need to know all of this? This is just information, right? No, it's not just information. There are very good purports in this, as we will see going forward. Okay, so let's move on. Now, verse 2. So we are talking about Akuti had 2 brothers, but in spite of her brothers, as I said, Akuti is the daughter of Swayambhu Manu, and the 2 brothers are Uttanapad and Priyavrata. King Swayambhu Manu handed her over to Prajapati Ruchi on the condition that the son born of her to be returned to Manu as his son. This he did in consultation with his wife Satrupa. So what Swayambhu Manu is doing, he is marrying his daughter to Prajapati Ruchi, and what he wants is the son who will be born out of this union, he wants to adopt him as his own son. Now, why is he doing it? Because now this the purport states that like Swayambhu Manu is a very elevated soul, right? He's a first-class devotee of the Lord, and that's why we are seeing his description also in Bhagavatam. Only the devotees of the Lord are mentioned in Bhagavatam, and Swayambhu Manu is one of the devotees of the Lord, and he is doing this where he is adopting his grandson as his own son, right? And this is called as Putrika Dharma, right? In Vedic times, this was pretty common. People used to do it. I would not say common, but people used to do it, and it was accepted. Why is it accepted? Again, because Swayambhu Manu himself did it, right? So tat achrati shreshta, that kind of thing, right? Whatever great people do, the general public follows. So that is what it is. Now, why did Swayambhu Manu do this in spite of having 2 sons? So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments that he knew that the Supreme Personality of God would be born from the womb of Akuti, right? And that's why he wanted to have that son. That's what Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur mentions here. And Putrika Dharma is a practice, and that's what Prabhupada is saying, that since Manu is the lawgiver of mankind and since he personally executed the Putrika Dharma, we may accept that such system may be adopted by mankind also. So uh, he did it because he knew the Supreme Personality of Godhead would be born, and he wanted him to be his son, and so he kept this condition when he married his daughter to Prajapati Ruchi. Okay, let's move on. Now, I am not sure if I mean Prajapati Ruchi is a direct son of Brahma. I don't have those details. We'll have to find out. But he's not one amongst those 10 sons mentioned. I think in the, let me check. I have this picture. So these are the 10 sons of Brahma directly: Bhrigu, Vashishta, Kritu, Pulatsya, right? So he's not mentioned in this. So I'm not 100% sure if he's a direct son. We'll have to find out, right? So let's move on. 4.1.3. Ruchi was very powerful in his Brahmanical qualification and was appointed one of the progenitors of the living entities. Begot one son and one daughter by his wife Akoti. So Ruchi, we got one son and daughter. This is pretty clear. Now there is an important, I mean, this purport is an important purport. Let's read this. The word Brahma Varchasvi is very significant. So the you can see this comes here in the purport. Brahma Varchasvi, right? So he was spiritually very powerful. That's what it means. Ruchi was a Brahmana and he executed the Brahmanical duties very rigidly. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, the Brahmanical qualifications are control of the senses, control of the mind, cleanliness within and without, development of spiritual and material knowledge, simplicity, truthfulness, faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There are many qualities which indicate a Brahmanical personality, and it is understood that Ruchi followed all the Brahmanical principles rigidly. Therefore, he is specifically mentioned as Brahma Varchasvi. One who is born of a Brahmana father but does not act as a Brahmana is called in the Vedic language a Brahmana Bandhu, Brahma Bandhu, and is calculated to be on the level of Shudras and women. Thus, in the Bhagavatam, we find that Mahabharata was specifically compiled by Vyasdeva for Stri Shudra Brahma Bandhu. Stri means woman, Shudra means the lower class of civilized human society, and Brahma Bandhu means persons who are born in the family of Brahmanas but do not follow the rules and regulations carefully. All of these three classes are called less intelligent. Now the question comes, right? Why is it that mentioned that women are considered to be less intelligent? I mean, this becomes a controversial thing, right? Shudras are considered to be less intelligent. So we'll try to look at that. First, let's finish the purport. They have no access to the study of Vedas, which are specifically meant for persons who have acquired the Brahmanical qualification. This restriction, now this is a very, very important point. This restriction is based not upon any sectarian distinction, but upon qualification. So this is a very, very important point, that this is not based on anything like, if you are not born in this family, you cannot do this. It's not a sectarian distinction, but it is about qualification. The Vedic literatures cannot be understood unless one has developed the Brahmanical qualifications. It is regrettable, therefore, that persons who have no Brahmanical qualifications have never been trained under a bona fide spiritual master, nevertheless comment on Vedic scriptures like the Srimad Bhagavatam and other Puranas. For such persons cannot deliver their real message. Ruchi was considered a first-class Brahmana, and therefore he is mentioned here as Brahma Varchasvi, and one who had full prowess in Brahmanical strength. So now the more, as I said, this is a very, very important point, that this restriction, the restriction of who can study Vedas and who cannot study Vedas, who can do what, is based upon qualification. Now, this is a very common thing, right? It's prevalent even today, that somebody who is not qualified cannot do certain things. Now, let's say you want to have a surgery. So you would go to a qualified surgeon, right? You would not go to some quack to get your surgery. So you will go to someone who has been trained to do that work, right? And so it is based on the qualification, that what you can do and what you cannot do. It's not based on something which it's like you want to restrict certain people so that they cannot do certain things. No, it's always based on qualification. The Vedic system is so nicely, I would say, so nicely created, the divisions, that it helps everyone to be happy, and at the same time utilize their skills and knowledge so that they do what they can do best, and be happy, and also benefit the whole society. But today we can see that we have made a mess of it, and the result of that mess which is created today, we have all kinds of problems. We do not it's difficult to get qualified people, right? As we say, at the same time, you can see that people do not have work, and they are struggling to get work. So both the cases, right? People are struggling to get qualified people, and at the same time people not getting jobs, and this is all because we have broken this very fine and nice system of Vedic system, varnashrama dharma, which is called, which is causing all this chaos in the society. Now, coming to the point where now here we should understand that when we are saying that women are considered to be less intelligent, or the Shudras are to be considered as less intelligent, there is always a context, right? There is always a context to something. So when we are mentioning this here, the context is in terms of the spiritual knowledge, right? So the women are considered less intelligent to have spiritual knowledge, because women are always attached, right? Women are always attached to a family. They have to take care of the family. That is the nature of women, right? They cannot be detached, or they cannot be like it's the woman who actually brings up the child, has love for the child, has attachment for the child. So they are attached to things, and that's why from a spiritual perspective, somebody who is attached to something is considered less intelligent, and that's why this word that women are less intelligent is used. It doesn't mean that women are less. I mean, people take it out of the context. That's where the problem is, right? People say that Vedas are trying to degrade women. No, that's not the point. The point here is that everything has a context, and when you look at those things in that context, you will understand what is happening. And when people just take out the context and just simply quote what is mentioned, that is where the controversy starts. And then people don't want to understand the context of the things. So it is very important when we read something, or when we especially in the Vedas, right? Especially in our Vedic scriptures, where what is mentioned has a context, and it is very important to understand that context before we jump to conclusions. And that's what is also mentioned here, that women and Shudras and Brahma Bandhus are considered to be less intelligent, because they are less intelligent for gaining spiritual knowledge because of their inherent nature, right? Let's move on. 4.1.4. Of the two children born of Akuti, the male child was directly an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his name was Yajna, which is another name of Lord Vishnu. The female child was a partial incarnation of Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, the eternal concept of Lord Vishnu. So Akuti had two children named Yajna and Dakshina. And the name will come in the next shloka. But the name of the Lord is Yajna. And that's why we perform yajna, right? When we say we perform a yajna, right? What we are actually doing is we are offering it to Lord Vishnu, right? He is directly incarnated in that form, and Dakshina is his consort. Now, please understand that the Lord and his consort were born in the womb of the same mother, but it does not mean that they are brothers and sisters. Okay, they are not brother and sister. It is just that they have incarnated in the same womb. So these all these material things don't apply to the Lord. So we must understand that, because Yajna later marries Dakshina. Okay, and that's what Prabhupada is also mentioning here. Both the Lord and his consort are beyond this material creation as confirmed by many authorities, right? So 4.1.5. Swayambhu Manu very gladly brought home the beautiful boy named Yajna, and Ruchi, his son-in-law, kept with him the daughter Dakshina, right? As I mentioned, son's name is Yajna and daughter-in-law's and the girl child's name is Dakshina, daughter's name is Dakshina. And that's why if you see, uh, today also, like whenever we do yajna or we do any religious ceremony, it is said that we must give dakshina to the brahmanas, right? That's what it is coming from here, right? Whenever you do yajna, you have to give dakshina. So the wife of Lord Vishnu is Dakshina, and that's what we are giving Dakshina to the Brahmana. That's what it means, right? The Brahmana is doing the yajna for you, and you give him the Dakshina. So here again, this purport talks about the laws of karma, right? And we will go through this purport. Swayambhu Manu was very glad to see that his daughter Akuti had given birth to both a boy and girl. He was afraid that he would take one son, and that because of this, his son-in-law Ruchi might be sorry. Thus, when he heard that a daughter was born along with the boy, he was very glad. Ruchi, according to his promise, returned his male child to Swayambhu Manu and decided to keep the daughter whose name was Dakshina. One of the Lord Vishnu's name is Yajna because he is the master of the Vedas. The name Yajna comes from Yajusampati, which means Lord of all sacrifices. In the Yajur Veda, there are different ritualistic prescriptions for performing yajnas, and the beneficiary of all the yajnas is the Supreme Lord Vishnu. Right? Therefore, it is stated in Bhagavad Gita 3.9, Yajna arthat karmana. One should act, but one should perform one's prescribed duty for the sake of Yajna or Vishnu. If one does not act for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or if one does not perform devotional service, then there will be reactions to all one's activities. It does not matter if the reaction is good or bad. If our activities are not dovetailed with the desires of the Supreme Lord, or if we do not act in Krishna consciousness, then we shall be responsible for the results of our activities. So karma and vikarma will bring reactions, but akarma, which is acting in Krishna consciousness, will not bring any reaction, and that is what we have to perform. We have to perform akarma, which is activities in Krishna consciousness, or activities which are done as a yajna. Yajna means doing your prescribed duties for the pleasure of Vishnu. Any activity which we do should be done for the pleasure of Lord Vishnu. That is what it means, and that is what Prabhupada is stating here, right? There is always a reaction to every action, but if actions are performed for yajna, there is no reaction. So that is what it is. Thus, if one acts for yajna or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one is not entangled in the material condition, for it is mentioned in the Vedas and also in Bhagavad Gita that the Vedas and the Vedic rituals are meant for understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, right? And where is that mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita? Anybody? That Vedic rituals are meant for understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna? No, Mataji. The Vedic rituals are meant for understanding, right?
Vedesha sarvair ahamev vedyam.
Correct.
Vedanta
Correct, Prabhuji. Thank you. So I think it is 15.7. Just a moment.
15.15.
15.15. I'm struggling with this. Yeah. This is the one. Sarvasya chaham ridhi sannivishto matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha vedeshcha sarver aham eva vedyo vedantakrit vedavid evam chaham. Right. So that is what it is mentioned, that I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler and the knower of the Vedas. Right. So and that's what we should also do from the beginning. One should try to act in Krishna consciousness, and that will free one from the reactions of the material activities. Okay, so let's move on if there are no questions. 4.1.6. Anybody would like to read?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yeah, go ahead.
The Lord of the ritualistic performance of Yajna later married Dakshina,
Yes.
who was anxious to have the personality of Godhead as her husband, and this wife of Lord was also much pleased to beget 12 children.
Yes. So Yajna was married to Dakshina and they had 12 children. So Yajna is born to Akuti and then they have 12 children. So that's how the lineage continues. And the Prabhupada gives a very good purport on household life and how the household life should be in this, right? He says that a husband must be satisfied with his wife and the wife must be satisfied with the husband. It is the husband's duty to provide for the wife, right? Provide for all the material opulence, to provide for, make sure that she is happy and taken care of. And it is wife's duty to take care of the husband, to be always satisfied with the husband and help the husband in performing Vedic duties, right? And when there is an agreement between husband and wife, then there is then good progeny comes in, and then there is no shortage, right? And then there is no shortage, and the house becomes a temple. Now, what is happening, unfortunately, in this age of Kali is we do not have good husbands, good wives, and then they are always fighting amongst themselves. And that's where we have unwanted progeny in the world today. And that is what Prabhupada is saying. And that's why there is no peace and prosperity in the present day world. So in historic times, now even not, I would not say historic times also, just look for 50 years back or maybe 50 to 70 years back. People were actually trained to be a good husband. People were actually, the girls were also trained to be a good wife. But now all that has gone for a toss, and all we are running after is to get materially qualified so that we can earn a lot of money. Even the girls are being brought up with that only, where they are very ambitious and want to prove themselves, right? So and that's what I mean. I'm not saying that it's only a girl's fault where they are become ambitious. It is actually more from the boys' side, where they also are not, I mean, they also want a girl who is working so that both of them can earn and have double salary. So they are called as what is in dinks, right? Double income and no kids. Just joking. So that's where it has gone to now. But according to the Vedic system, this is what, if you want to be happy in life and you want prosperity, peace in your life, it is very important to have a good understanding between husband and wife. And if there are disagreements, that will lead to chaos. And all these instructions are given by Chanakya Pandit, right? Now, Chanakya Pandit himself was never married, but you can see how great our ancient people or scholars were, right? 4.1.7. The 12 boys born of Yajna and Dakshina. So these, now it mentions the names of the children of Yajna and Dakshina. So they are named as Tosha, Paratosha, Santosha, Bhadra, Shanti, Idaspati, Idhama, Kavi, Vibhu, Swahana, Sudeva, and Rochana. Right. So these are the 12 sons born of Yajna and Dakshina. Let's move on. During the time of Swayambhu Manu, during the time of Swayambhu Manu, these sons all became the demigods, collectively named as Tushitas. Marichi became the head of the 7 rishis, and Yajna became the king of the demigods, Indra. So Indra at the time of Swayambhu Manu was the supreme lord himself. That's what is mentioned, and these sons became the demigods who were called Tushitas. So we are talking about the reign of Swayambhu Manu, right? I think in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says that of all the Maruts, I am Marichi. So you can see the greatness of Marichi, right? Marichi became the head of the 7 rishis, Sapta rishis. There is one point mentioned here that there were 6 kinds of living entities, and they were known as Manus, Devas, Manuputras, Amsha Avtaras, Sureshwaras, and Rishis. So these are the 6 kind of people or 6 kind of progenies which were present in the reign of Swayambhu Manu. Okay. 4.1.9. So now Swayambhu Manu's 2 sons, Priyavrata and Uttanapad, became very powerful kings, and their sons and grandsons spread all over the 3 worlds during that period. Right now, Swayambhu Manu had 2 sons, Priyavrata and Uttanapad. Right, and as I mentioned earlier, the descriptions of Uttanapad or the dynasty of Uttanapad is mentioned in the 4th canto. Right, Dhruva Maharaj, a great devotee of the Lord, is the son of Uttanapad. Right, and then Prithu Maharaj, who is further down in the lineage, comes from the lineage of Uttanapad. Right, so all these is there. All the pastimes of Dhruva Maharaj, Prithu Maharaj are mentioned in this 4th canto itself. As we go further, and as we study Bhagavatam further, we'll see all this. 4. So I just want to quickly show this PPT so that it is clear in your head. So Swayambhu Manu has 3 daughters and 2 sons, right? Uttanapad and Priyavrata. So this picture you can keep in mind, right? Akuti. So we just talked about Akuti, right? Akuti was married to, if you see this, Akuti is married to Prajapati Ruchi, and they have 2 sons, Yajna and Dakshina. And Yajna is the supreme personality of Godhead, and Dakshina is Lord Lakshmi, is Goddess Lakshmi. Okay, and now we will see Devavuti's children and whom they were married to. Okay, right. My dear son, Swayambhu Manu handed over his very dear daughter Devahuti to Kardamba Muni. I have already spoken to you about them, and you have heard about them almost in full. So let's look at it further. Now, before we move further, let me show you this. So Devahuti had 9 daughters, right? These are the names of 9 daughters: Kala, Anasuya, Shraddha, Avirbhu, Gati, Kriya, Urja, or sometimes called Arundhati, Chiti, and Khyati. And you can see they were married to, Kala was married to Marichi. All this will come in the further shlokas. I've taken this from the shlokas only, but I just put it in one table so that it is easier to comprehend. And all these are basically sons of Brahma, right? The 10 sons, as I mentioned, right? I think Atharva is not mentioned, but the rest of the 8, and Daksha, right? Daksha is not married to the daughters of Devahuti, but Daksha married, if you see here, Daksha married Prasuti, who is the 3rd daughter of Swayambhu Manu, right? So what we are talking now is daughters of Devahuti who are born and whom they married. So of these 9 daughters of Devahuti, 8 of them were married to sons of Brahma, and I'm not very sure about sage Atharva. So I did not, I mean, it is mentioned somewhere that he's also son of Brahma, but I am not 100% sure. But these are definitely mentioned in Bhagavatam itself, and they are the 8 sons of Brahma to whom the daughters of Devoti are married. Okay, so let's look at the shloka one by one quickly. Swayambhu Manu handed over his daughter Prasuti to the son of Brahma named Daksha, right? As I mentioned, who was also one of the progenitors of the living entities. The descendants of Daksha are spread throughout the 3 worlds. And Daksha becomes the father-in-law of Lord Shiva. And then there is a pastime between Daksha and Lord Shiva. How Daksha actually basically hurts Lord Shiva, and then there is a fight in that assembly, and so on and so forth. So all this will come in the 4th canto further. Let's move on. You have already been informed about the 9 daughters of Kardamba Muni who were handed over to 9 different sages. I shall now describe the descendants of those 9 daughters. So I just showed you the table, and we will quickly go through those names quickly. So Kardamba Muni's daughter Kala was married to Marichi, gave birth to 2 children whose names were Kashyapa and Purnima. Their descendants are spread all over the world, right? So if we look at this, Kala is married to Marichi and they have 2 sons named Kashyapa and Purnima, right? My dear Vidura, of the 2 sons, Kashyapa and Purnima begot 3 children, namely Viraja, Visavaga, and Devakulya. Now, the important point here is, of these 3, Devakulya was the water which washed the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, and which later on transformed into the Ganges of the heavenly planet. So Devakulya, who is the daughter of, whose daughter? Daughter of Purnima, right? The wife's name is not mentioned, and she is the primary deity of Ganges, right? And that is what is also mentioned, right? Herein, that Devakula is the presiding deity of the river Ganges. Moving on. Now, the second daughter, Anusuya, the wife of Atri Muni, gave birth to 3 famous sons, Soma, Dattatreya, and Durvasa. So Durvasa Muni is the son of Atri Muni and Anusuya, who were partial representations of Lord Vishnu, Lord Shiva, and Lord Brahma. So Dattatreya Bhagwan is a partial representation of Lord Vishnu. Durvasa Muni is a partial representation of Lord Shiva, and Soma is a partial representation of Lord Brahma. Right? This is what is mentioned here. And one more important thing is Dattatreya, I mean Lord Dattatreya is basically an incarnation of all the 3 principal deities, Brahma, Vishnu, and Lord Shiva. And we'll see why he was born. Now, in this purport, Prabhupada gives a very important concept about that. I mean, we all know that we are all parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. Again, Bhagavad Gita mentions this. There is a shloka in Bhagavad Gita, Mamay Vamsho Jiva Loke, right? So, so Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma are also described here as parts. So why not accept all of them as ordinary individual souls? We are all parts and parcels. We are individual souls, ordinary souls, but are Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma also individual souls? That's what Prabhupada is trying to answer this. And then he quotes it from Varaha Purana that there are 2 types of, I mean, I would say parts of souls, like Swamsha and Vibhinamsha. Now, Vibhinamsha, we are Vibhinamshas, which are called Jivas, and Swamsha's parts are in the Vishnu category. In the Jiva category, the Vibhinamshas, parts and parcels, there are also gradations. And that is explained in Vishnu Purana. So Prabhupada is quoting from from the various scriptures about that we being part and parcels of the Lord and how we are graded and classified. So this gives us a good understanding of the difference between us and Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Lord Vishnu, and how we are individual ordinary souls, but they are not. And then again, even in within the individual souls, there are different categories based on our material existence, level of work, and different influences of the mode of material nature. So fine, again, there are gradations, like people who are in mode of goodness, they suffer less. People in mode of passion and ignorance suffer more. So based on which mode we are in, again, there is a category, and that is what is being mentioned here. Now, Prabhupada compares all of this to lights, different lights, right? How do we measure the light given by, I mean, in physics, we have studied, right? We say candle light, 10 candle lights or 100 candle light. This is the power of this bulb, right? That's what Prabhupada is also doing here. So, and he's comparing that, for example, some electric bulbs have the power of 1000 candles. Some have the power of 500 candles, and some have power of 100 candles. So that's what he's comparing. So different types of souls have, I mean, like different electric bulbs which give different lights. The different types of souls have different powers and different categories and different qualities. And so now the important thing which he mentions is the Vishnu Tattvas has 94%. Now, why is he saying 94%? Because Krishna is considered to be the supreme whole. Lord Vishnu has most of the qualities of Lord Krishna, but some of the qualities are missing, and that's why Prabhupada mentioned, based on those qualities which are missing, the Vishnu Tattvas are 94%, Shiva Tattva are 84%, and Lord Brahma has 78%. So based on the qualities which are, so Lord Krishna has all the qualities, I think 64 qualities, if I'm not wrong. And Lord Vishnu has some less, Lord Shiva has something less, and Lord Brahma further less. I'm not aware of the exact numbers, but that's how this is categorized. And the important thing is, therefore, these words Atmesha Brahma Sambhavan indicate that Dattatreya was directly part and parcel of Vishnu, whereas Durvasa and Soma were parts and parcel of Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. Okay. Now, one more important thing. See, Atre Muni, if you remember, he is also present and mentioned in the Ramayana. Lord Ramchandra visited his ashram when he went to Chitrakoot. So he's mentioned even in Ramayana, Atre Muni, right? And his wife Anusuya, right? After hearing this, Vidura inquired from Maitreya, "My dear master, how is it that the three deities Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, who are the creator, maintainer, and destroyer of the whole creation, became the offspring of the wife of Atre Muni?" So now Vidura is questioning Maitreya, because, I mean, why did the Lord incarnate as three deities, right? What was the purpose of that? That's what is being asked by Vidura to Atre Muni. Maitreya Muni, sorry. So Maitreya said, when Lord Brahma ordered Atri Muni to create generations after marrying Anusuya, Atri Muni and his wife went to perform severe austerities in the valley of the mountain known as Raksha. In the mountain valley flows a river named Nirvindya. On the bank of the river are many Ashoka trees and other plants full of Palasa flowers. And there is always the sweet sound of water flowing from a waterfall. The husband and wife reached that beautiful place. So we are talking about Atre Muni and Anusuya, right? So Lord Brahma has ordered them to create progeny. So they are doing tapasya before doing it. And the aim, Atre Muni actually wanted to have a son who is exactly like the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But let's see. There, the great sage concentrated his mind by the yogic breathing exercises, and thereby controlling all the attachment. He remained standing on one leg only, eating nothing but air, and stood there on one leg for 100 years. So Atre Muni is performing tapasya in order to get the Supreme Lord as his son. He was thinking, may the Lord of the universe, of whom I have taken shelter, kindly be pleased to offer me a son exactly like him. Now, what is Atre Muni asking for? Exactly like him, right? He wants a son exactly like him. So Prabhupada writes in this purport, it appears that the great sage Atre Muni had no specific idea of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Of course, he must have been conversant with the Vedic information that there is a Supreme Personality of Godhead who is the creator of the universe, from whom everything emanated, who maintains this created manifestation, and whom the entire manifestation is conserved after dissolution. So the point here is, see, Atre Muni is not asking for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's asking for a son like Supreme Personality of Godhead. Like, he is not wanting Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he's wanting a son. I mean, there is a difference here, right? That first of all, he does not know who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he's asking for a son like him, and that's why all the three deities come, because they are I would say controllers and proprietors in their own domain, right? For example, Lord Shiva is responsible for this whole, is the proprietor of this whole material creation, correct? So that's why all the three deities come. Now Prabhupada makes a point here, that's Atre Muni wanted a son exactly like the Lord, and therefore he is not supposed to have been a pure devotee, because he had a desire to be fulfilled, and that desire was material. That is what Prabhupada is mentioning. Very important thing, right? That even if we are asking for the Lord, how we are asking is also important. Although he wanted a son exactly like Supreme Personality of Godhead, this desire was material, because he did not want the personality of Godhead himself, but only a child exactly like him. So this is very, very important. If he had desired the Supreme Personality of Godhead as his child, he would have been completely free of material desires, because he would have wanted the supreme absolute truth. But because he wanted a similar child, his desire was material. Thus, Atre Muni cannot be counted among the pure devotees. Right? This is what Prabhupada is writing in the purport. Now, for us, it might be a little difficult to understand, but we, I mean, what I mean to say here is, based on what the standard Prabhupada had said, right? Pure devotional service, based on that lens, if you look at it, Atre Muni is not considered among the pure devotees. While Atre Muni was engaged in this severe austerities, a blazing fire came out of his head by virtue of his breathing exercise, and that fire was seen by the three principal deities of the three worlds, right? And there is, let's move on. 4.1.22. At that time, the three deities approached the hermitage of Atri Muni, accompanied by denizens of heavenly planets, such as celestial beauties, the Gandharvas, the Siddhas, the Vidyadharas, and the Nagas. Thus, they entered the ashrama of the great sage, who had become famous by his austerities. We'll move on. The sage was standing on one leg, but as soon as he saw that the three deities had appeared before him, he was so pleased to see them all together that despite great difficulty, he approached them on one leg. Thereafter, he began to offer prayers to the three deities who were seated on different carriers, right? Lord Brahma, a bull. So on the bull was Lord Shiva, a swan, and Garuda. On the swan was Lord Brahma, and on Garuda, Lord Vishnu. And who held in their hands a drum, Kushagras, and a discus, right? Drum, Lord Shiva, Kushagras is Lord Brahma, and discus or the chakra, Sudarshan chakra, is Lord Vishnu. The sage offered them his respect by falling down like a stick. Dandavat pranam. That's what Prabhupada describes here, Dandavat, right? And I already mentioned about all this. (4.1.25). Atre Muni was greatly pleased to see that the three devas were gracious towards him. His eyes were dazzled by the effulgence of their bodies, and therefore he closed his eyes for the time being. Okay. 26 and 27. But since his heart was already attracted by the deity, somehow or other he gathered his senses, and with folded hands and sweet words, he began to offer prayers to the predominating deities of the universe. The great sage Atri said, O Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu, and Lord Shiva, you have divided yourself into three bodies by accepting the three modes of material nature, as you do in every millennium, for the creation, maintenance, and dissolution of the cosmic manifestation. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you and beg to inquire whom of you three I have called by my prayer, right? This is clearly his saying that I do not know who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because I wanted a son like the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but I do not know, and all the three presiding deities have come. Now you tell me of the three whom I have called by my prayers. I do not know. So he did such a great tapasya that all the three came to him, and now he's asking them to let him know who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Atre Rishi called for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Jagat Ishvara, the Lord of the universe. The Lord must, so Prabhupada actually explains that this slide. I mean, here we can see there is a reference of that Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu, Lord Shiva, and the different modes of nature for which they are the owners, right? Creation, maintenance, and dissolution. So Lord Brahma, creation requires passion. So Lord Brahma is the Lord of the mode of passion. Lord Vishnu for maintenance, Lord of which is Lord of mode of goodness, and Lord Shiva is responsible for dissolution, and hence is the Lord of the mode of ignorance. Please understand, they are not in those modes, they are the Lord of those modes, right? They take care of people in those modes. I called for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, desiring a son like him, and I thought of him only. But although he is far beyond the mental speculation of men, all three of you, I called for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, desiring a son like him, and I thought of him only. But although he is far beyond the mental speculation of men, all three of you have come here. Kindly let me know how you have come, for I am greatly bewildered about this, right? So he's asking these questions to those three deities who have come, that he's bewildered and wants to know of the three whom of you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The great sage Maitreya continued, upon hearing Atri Muni speak in that way, the three great deities smiled and they replied in the following sweet words. So let's look at what the lords replied. Deva Uchu, right? So that they are replying. The three deities told Atri Muni, dear Brahmana, you are perfect in your determination, and therefore, as you have decided, so it will happen. It will not happen otherwise. We are all the same person upon whom you are meditating, and therefore we have all come to you. Now, let's read the purport of Prabhupada in this. Atri Muni unspecifically thought of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Lord of the universe. Although he had no clear idea of the Lord of the universe, nor of his specific form. Mahavishnu, whose breathing millions of universe emanate into him and whom they are again withdrawn, may be accepted as the Lord of the universe. Garbhodakshai Vishnu, from whose abdomen sprouted the lotus flower, which is the birthplace of Brahma, may also be considered the Lord of the universe. Similarly, Shirodakshai Vishnu, who is the super soul of all living entities, may also be considered the Lord of the universe. Then, under the order of Shirodakshai Vishnu, the Vishnu form within this universe, Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva may also be accepted as the lords of the universe. Vishnu is the Lord of the universe because he is the maintainer. Similarly, Brahma creates the different planetary systems and the population. So he may also be considered the Lord of the universe. Or Lord Shiva, who is ultimately the destroyer of the universe, may also be considered its Lord. Therefore, since Atre Muni did not specifically mention whom he wanted, all three Brahma, Vishnu, and Lord Shiva came before him. They said, since you were thinking of having a son exactly like Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Lord of the universe, your determination will be fulfilled. In other words, one's determination is fulfilled according to the strength of one's devotion. Very important point. One's determination is fulfilled according to the strength of one's devotion. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, right? Yanti Deva Vrata Devan Pitra Yanti Pitra Vrata. So this shloka says that whoever you worship, you go to those planets. If you worship the Pitras, you will go to the Pitra Loka. If you worship the Devtas, you will go to the Lokas of those Devtas. And if you worship Krishna, you will go to his planet, right? If one is attached to a particular demigod, one is promoted to the abode of that demigod. And if one is, sorry, if one is attached to a particular demigod, one is promoted to the abode of that demigod. If one is attached to the pitas or forefathers, one is promoted to their planet. And similarly, if one is attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, one is promoted to the abode of Lord Krishna. Atri Muni had no clear conception of the Lord of the universe. Therefore, the three presiding deities were actually lords of the universe in the three departments of the modes of nature, all came before him. Now, according to the strength of his determination for a son, his desire would be fulfilled by the grace of the Lord. So please understand that all three have come because they are the lords of the universe, as explained here, right? Lord Shiva is responsible for destruction, so he's also considered as the Lord of the universe. Lord Vishnu is responsible for maintenance of the universe, so he's also the Lord of the universe. Lord Brahma does the creation, so he's also considered the Lord of the universe, right? So based on this, all the three deities have come, correct? But we should not interpret this that all of the three are equal. Please understand that is not what is mentioned here. It is not mentioned that all three of them are equal and hence they have come. No, they have come because they are considered as the Lord of the universe in different aspects. And since Atre Muni was not very sure, he wanted the Lord of the universe to be there, the Supreme Lord to be there. So that's why all three have come. So there is a very important point here that we should not consider that all three are equal, right? That's not the interpretation which is to be derived from here. 4.1.31. You will have two sons. You will have sons who will represent a partial manifestation of our potency. And because we desire all good fortune for you, those sons will glorify your reputation throughout the world. That is what the deities are telling Atre Muni. 32. Thus, while the couple looked on, the three deities, Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara, disappeared from that place after bestowing upon Atre Muni the benediction. Thereafter, from the partial representation of Brahma, the moon god was born of them. And from the partial representation of Vishnu, the great mystic Dattatreya was born. And from the partial representation of Shankara, Lord Shiva, Durvasa Muni was born. Durvasa, right? Durvasa Muni. Now, you may hear from me of the many sons of Angira. Now we are moving ahead, and now you might, I mean, Dattatreya, Lord Dattatreya is not mentioned so much in Bhagavatam. It is in this 4th canto, and there are further mentions of Lord Dattatreya. And Lord Dattatreya's teachings are, I mean, I would not say impersonal, but and we do not find many temples of Lord Dattatreya in South India. But if you go to Maharashtra, you will find many temples of Lord Dattatreya, and Lord Dattatreya is very commonly worshipped in Maharashtra. I mean, I belong to Maharashtra, and I've seen many temples of Dattatreya Bhagwan there, Lord Dattatreya. And it is the representation of the Lord is, he has 3 heads, one for Lord Vishnu, Lord Brahma, and Lord Shiva, all of them combined in one incarnation. Let's move on. So now let's come back to this table. So we are talking about the 3rd daughter of Devahuti. The name of the daughter is Shraddha, and she is married to Angira, and then we'll see what are the children of them, right? So Angira's wife Shraddha gave birth to 4 daughters named Shinivali, Kuhu, Raka, and Anumati, right? Not much is mentioned beyond this. Besides these 4 daughters, she also had another 2 sons. One of them was known as Uthaya, and the other was learned scholar Brihaspati. So again, Brihaspati is born to the daughters of Devahuti. So, okay. So see, please understand that this gives us the history of these great personalities, right? We see the names of these great personalities appearing in the Bhagavatam. And if you know the history, as I said, it gives you that more connect. So that's why we should know about all of this. Now, moving ahead, we are talking about the 4th daughter. So we are talking about Havirbhu. The name of the daughter is Havirbhu, and she is married to Pulatsya Rishi, right? And then we'll see what are the children. So I've already mentioned, right? These 4 daughters we saw, and then there's 2 sons, right? In the same table. Pulatsya begot in his wife Havirbhu 1 son named Agatsya, who in his next birth became Dahagragni. Besides him, Pulatsya begot another very great and saintly saint whose name was Vishrava. Now, I do not know about these great personalities, and I think as Bhagavatam progresses, we'll see. They must be mentioned in further down the line in Bhagavatam, because clearly it mentions another very greatly and saintly son, right? Great and saintly son. Now from Vishrava, who is a son of the daughter of Havirbhu is married to Pulatsya, and Vishrava is the son. Now we are talking about the lineage of Vishrava, right? Let's look at it. So Vishrava had 2 wives. The first wife was Idavida, from whom Kuvera, the master of all yakshas, right? Lord Kuvera, we are talking about, was born. And the next wife was named Kesini, from whom 3 sons were born: Ravana, Kumbhakarna, and Vibhishana. And that's why Kuvera is a brother of Ravana, Kumbhakarna, and Vibhishana, right? We see this, right? That Kuvera I mean, Ravana is the brother for Kuvera, right? Moving on. Now we are talking about the next daughter of Devahuti, Gati. She is married to Pulaha, and these are the children. So let's look at it quickly. Gati, the wife of the sage Pulaha, gave birth to 3 sons named Karmashrestha, Variyan, and Sahishnu, and all of them were great sages. So again, nothing much here, directly just the names are given, but they do introduce these great personalities, and the mention of these would be present in other Vedic scriptures. Now, moving further, we look at Kriya, and the daughter's name is Kriya, and she is married to Kritu Maharaj, Kratu Rishi. Sorry. So Kratu's wife Kriya gave birth to 60,000 great sages, named the Vallakilyas. All these sages were greatly advanced in spiritual knowledge, and their bodies were illuminated by such knowledge. That is all is mentioned here. Now, moving further, we are talking about Urja, who is also called Arundhati, and she is married to Vashishta. The great sage Vashishta begot in his wife Urja, sometimes called Arundhati, 7 spotlessly great sages headed by the sage named Chitraketu. Right? We will see the story of Chitraketu Maharaj further down the line. Again, he is introduced here. Right? And Vashishta also has a prominent role in Ramayana. Right? The names of these 7 sages are as follows: Chitraketu, Surochi, Viraja, Mitra, Ulabana, Vasub, Dryana, and Dumyan. Some other very competent sons were born from Vashishta's other wife. So, right, these are the sons of Vashishta and Arundhati. Correct? And that is what is mentioned. Now we are moving ahead. We are talking about the 7th daughter, sorry, 8th daughter, Chiti, who is married to Atharva Rishi. Chiti, wife of the sage Atharva, gave birth to a son named Ashwashrina by accepting a great vow called Dadachana. Now, you may hear from me about the descendants of the sage Bhrigu. So, after this, Maitreya Rishi is talking about the descendants of sage Bhrigu. The sage Bhrigu was highly fortunate. In his wife, known as Khyati, he begot 2 sons named Dhata and Vidhata, and 1 daughter named Shri, who was very much devoted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, Khyati, the 9th daughter of Devahuti, is married to sage Bhrigu. They have 2 sons, Dhata, Vidhata, and 1 daughter named Shri. Right? This again, just putting it here for quick reference. And this is all is directly mentioned. There's nothing more here. Now, the sage Meru had 2 daughters. Now, to whom these 2 sons were married is mentioned. The sage Meru had 2 daughters named Ayati and Niyati, whom he gave in charity to Dhata and Vidhata. Ayati and Niyati gave birth to 2 sons, Mirkanda and Prana. Now, again, further descendants are mentioned for the 9th daughter. Okay. Further, now, if you look at it, we are talking about, we saw that Ayati and Niyati. So they gave birth to these 2 sons, Markanda and Prana. Now, from Markanda comes Markandeya Rishi. From Markanda, Markandeya Muni was born, and from Prana, the sage Vedashira, whose son was Usana, Shukracharya, right? Shukracharya, also known as Kavi. Thus, Kavi also belonged to the descendants of the Bhrigu dynasty. So, you see this, this I have just put as grandchildren of Devahuti. Ayati and Niyati, right? They are married to Dhata and Vidhata, who are sons of Bhrigu and Khyati. And from them, as I said, Markanda and Prana. And from Markanda comes Markandeya Muni. And from Prana, the sage Vedashira. And from Vedashira comes a son who is known as Shukracharya. So Shukracharya, who is the guru of the Daityas. was born to Vedashira. Okay, that is how the lineage is described. So Shukracharya comes in the dynasty of Bhrigu Maharaj, Bhrigu Muni. My dear Vidura, the population of the universe was thus increased by the descendants of the sages and the daughters of Kardama. Anyone who hears, now this is the Falshruti, anyone who hears the descriptions of this dynasty with faith will be relieved from all sinful reactions. Another of Manu's daughter, known as Prasuti, married the son of Brahma named Daksha. So the third daughter of Swayambhu Manu, Prasuti, is married to Daksha. Right now comes the lineage of the third daughter of Swayambhu Manu, Prasuti. So we have talked about Akuti and Devahuti. Now we are talking about Prasuti, who is the third daughter of Swayambhu Manu. Right here, if you see, we have talked about Akuti, Devahuti. Now we are talking about Prasuti. So just for a revision, Akuti was married to Prajapati Ruchi, from whom were born Yajna and Dakshina, right? We saw this. Then we saw about Devahuti, the daughters, and the marriage of those daughters to different sons of Brahma. We saw all this. Kapila Dev was also born to Devahuti. Now we are talking about Prasuti, the third daughter of Swayambhu Manu, who was married to Daksha. And then the children of Prasuti and Daksha are mentioned herein. Okay. So I will try to wrap up or should we stop here? Because this will all just describe. We should wrap up. Okay. I will then let's do that. So Daksha begot 16 very beautiful daughters with lotus-like eyes in his wife Prasuti. Of these 16 daughters, 13 were given in marriage to Dharma, and one daughter was given to Agni. Okay, so these are the 16 daughters, okay, of Prasuti and Daksha, and we will see what happens. I have the table here. So these are the 13 daughters who are married to Dharma. So let's look at it. So these gives the descriptions of this dynasty. Of the remaining two daughters were given in charity. Of the remaining two daughters was given in charity to Pitraloka, where she resides very amicably, and the other was given to Lord Shiva. So there are how many daughters? 16 daughters, right? So Swaha was given to Agni. Swadha was the one who was married to Pitraloka. She was sent to Pitraloka. Sati was married to Lord Shiva. So 13 daughters married to Dharma, one daughter married to Agni, one daughter married to the Pitralokas or the residents of Pitraloka, and Sati was married to Lord Shiva. So these are the 16 daughters of Prasuti and Daksha. So Sati is the daughter of Daksha. So the names of the 13 daughters. So all these details are given, and who are born of whom is all mentioned here, which I've put in the table. I've clearly mentioned that Shraddha gave birth to Shubha, and Maitri gave birth to Prasada, Daya, Abhaya, Shanti, Shukha. All this is mentioned. Now the important thing here is, from this 13th daughter of Prasuti appeared the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Nar Narayan Rishis, right? So Nar Narayan Rishis were born from the 13th daughter of Prasuti and Daksha, and named Murti, and Murti is married to Dharma, right? So this is all mentioned here. Reservoir gave birth to Shri Nar Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. On the occasion of the appearance of the Nar Narayan, the entire world was full of joy. Everyone's mind became tranquil, and thus in all directions, the air, the rivers, and the mountains became pleasant. Let's move on. In the heavenly planets, bands began to play, and they showered flowers from the sky. The pacified sages chanted Vedic prayers. The denizens of heaven, known as Gandharvas and Kinnaras, sang the beautiful damsels of the heavenly planets danced. And in this way, at the time of appearance of Nar Narayana, all signs of good fortune were visible. Just at that time, great demigods like Brahma also offered their respectful prayers. Okay. The demigod said, let us offer our respectful obeisances unto the transcendental personality of Godhead who created as his external energy this cosmic manifestation, which is situated in him as the air and clouds are situated in space, and who has now appeared in the form of Nar Narayan Rishi in the house of Dharma. So we are seeing third incarnation of the Supreme Lord here in this chapter itself, right? First one was Yajna, second was Lord Dattatreya, and third is Nar Narayan Rishi. And they are all born to different daughters of Swambhu Manu. 57. Let that supreme personality of Godhead, who is understood by truly authorized Vedic literature and who has created peace and prosperity to destroy all calamities of the created world, be kind enough to bestow his glance upon the demigods. His merciful glance can supersede the beauty of the spotless lotus flower, which is the home of the goddess of fortune. There are good purports in this, but I'm not going through it, but we can go ahead and read it later. 58. Maitreya said, O Vidura, thus the demigods worshipped with prayers the supreme personality of Godhead, appearing as the sage Nar Narayan. The Lord glanced upon them with mercy and then departed for the Gandha Mandana hill. So the Lord departed for the Gandha Mandana hill. 59. Thus, Nar Narayana Rishi, who is the partial expansion of Krishna, has now appeared in the dynasties of Yadu and Kuru in the form of Krishna and Arjuna respectively to mitigate the burden of the world. Okay. See, it is important to read this. Maitreya informed Vidura that Nara, the portion of Narayana, had appeared in the family of Kurus, and Narayana, the plenary expansion of Krishna, has come as Krishna, the supreme personality of Godhead, with the purpose of delivering suffering humanity from the pangs of material burdens. In other words, Narayana Rishi was now present in the world in the form of Krishna and Arjuna. Not the other way around. Please understand this. The predominating deity of fire begot in his wife Swaha. So now we are talking about the 14th daughter, right? We have discussed about these 13 daughters. Now we are talking about the 14th daughter of Prasuti, who is married to Agnidev, right? The predominating deity of fire begot in his wife Swaha 3 children named Pavaka, Pavamana, and Suchi, who exist by eating the oblations offered to the fire of sacrifice. And that's why we say, well, we do fire sacrifices, Swaha, right? Whenever we offer, we say Swaha, because who is the wife of fire? Lord, the Agnidev is Swaha, right? And we say Swaha based because of that. 61. From those 3 sons, another 45. Now we saw the 3 sons, and then from there, another 45 descendants were generated who are also fire gods. The total number of fire gods is therefore 49, including the fathers and grandfather. So 3 sons were born to Agnidev himself, and these 45 descendants. So they in total are 49 fire gods, right? These are all the 49 fire gods, right? Born from Agni and Swaha. These 49 fire gods are the beneficiaries of the oblations offered in the Vedic sacrificial fire by the impersonalist Brahmanas. Okay. 63. The Agni Swatas, the Bahir Sadas, the Somyas, and the Ajyapas are the Pitas. They are either Saganika or Niraganika. The wife of all these Pitas is Swadha, who is the daughter of King Daksha. So again, we are talking about the 15th daughter of Prasuti and Daksha. And she is married to the residents of the Pitraloka, Pitras, right? Pitas. And that is what is mentioned here. Swadha, who was offered to the Pitas, begot two daughters. Now we are talking about the children, Vayuna and Dharini, both of whom are impersonalist and were expert in transcendental and Vedic knowledge. Moving ahead, the 16th daughter, whose name was Sati, was the wife of Lord Shiva. She could not produce a child, although she always faithfully engaged in the service of her husband. And that's where Vidura asked question to Maitreya Rishi, why did it happen? Why did Sati not produce a child when she was married to Lord Shiva? And that's where comes the story of Daksha and Lord Shiva, which will come starting from chapter 2. I think this is the reason is that Sati's father, Daksha, used to rebuke Lord Shiva in spite of Lord Shiva's faultlessness. Consequently, before attaining a mature age, Sati gave up her body by dint of yogic mystic power. And then Vidura will ask questions about this story, and that's what that starts from chapter 2. Okay, and here it completes the chapter. There are 66 verses. We have went very fast. I did not describe any of those great personalities. I think it will take a lot of classes to describe about each of these great personalities. But I think even if we can remember their name, remember the relationship and who is born of whom, we may not try to learn it, but just keep that in context so that it is easier to connect to the connect dots and understand, right? And that's why, like, I explained certain things, right? We give dakshina on doing a yajna. We say swaha when we do fire sacrifices. All this is coming because of the relationships, right, which are mentioned here. So with this, I will stop, and we are open to questions, comments, and I'm beg your forgiveness if I have done something wrong, if I have said something which might have hurt you or something which is wrong. Please correct. Please mention that right away. And thank you very much for this service.
Hare Krishna, Shreegopal Prabhuji. Thank you for a wonderful class. So I have read the fourth canto, but just now today only I heard the gratitude aspect of Prabhupada in the first sloka. I don't know how I missed it, but because of you, I could remember that. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for reminding me of that.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
If there are any questions, devotees can ask.
Just want to appreciate the Shreegopal Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam, Prabhuji.
Very nice. Yeah, it's a different personalities there, as you said. So each personality is a lot of stories there actually. So it takes many classes actually.
Yes,
That's
Prabhuji.
true. This is a progeny actually, how the different personalities and all different wives got this marriage, and very nice. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Wonderful session, Prabhu. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Shreegopal Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
One question I have is, what is this partial? I think Yajna's wife. You said partial incarnation of Lakshmi, Prabhu. Okay, partial.
Yes.
So partial in the sense what, Prabhu? Like only some characters will come, or
Prabhuji, that's how it is mentioned. It does not, I mean, we have different incarnations of the Lord, right? Similarly, Goddess Lakshmi also incarnates with the Lord. And I am not 100% sure whether it is partial qualities or what partial actually means there. I will have to read a little bit more to understand that. But I think it must be in terms of the qualities, and this is just a guess. I don't want to make that guess. So anybody who knows the answer to this, please add to it.
Can I add, Prabhuji? Just
Yes, yes.
I'm also not sure, but I have seen it. The partial incarnation means God or goddess comes only for a small duration of time to specific small task. That is only the partial task. Incarnation. Here, Dakshina, I remember it's Dakshini, right?
Yes, Dakshina.
So see Dakshina, she comes only for a brief moment, for a small task. So that's why it's called partial incarnation. Otherwise, it is called full incarnation. Like Yajna is full incarnation.
Okay.
Yugavatar. So that is all what I heard and I understood.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you. Thank you for adding.
okay, Prabhu. So it is like a partial. Okay, it's a very small period, and okay, small period. It's more of period point of view. Okay. Okay, Prabhu. Thank you. And one more thing, Prabhu, you mentioned, it's a very good point, Prabhu, Atri Maharshi. You said like he requested for similar qualities or similar as Supreme Person of the Godhead, not as him. Okay, and that is very good point. And that itself is also a materialism.
That's what Prabhupada mentions.
Yeah, and one thing I'm a bit confused, Prabhu. Atri Maharshi is not something very ordinary. It's something extraordinary. You see him in Ramayana. And Prabhu, like he himself confused, like who is Supreme Person of the Godhead.
So at that point, he was confused, Prabhuji. And then, then, right? I mean, he gains knowledge and he sees the Supreme Lord, right? The Lord comes to his ashram, right? Lord Ramchandra comes to his ashram and he has pastimes with Lord Ramchandra in Ramayana, right? So and these rishis have lived for a very, very long time, right? So definitely it is talking about his state at that point of time. I mean, that's how I interpret it, or I understand it, not interpret it. I understand it, that he had possibly at that point of time, he was not very clear. And that's what Prabhupada is mentioning. And again, this could also mean that he was just used by the Supreme Lord for in his pastimes, right? It could be that also, that the Lord used him and to actually incarnate as one deity. I mean, a form with all the three being present together.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yeah, wonderful session, Prabhuji. Nice. Through you, we could understand at least that the like Atri Muni wanted again the same point. Atri Muni wanted the sun-like the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I could understand the difference between the sun-like and asking for real Supreme Personality of Godhead, like Vasudeva and Devaki God and all. So this was the difference actually. Through you, we could understand Srila Prabhupada words and all. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
So, but the same, there is a difference, but the same qualities, though he is saying that son like you, but you would be also having the same qualities of Supreme Personality of Godhead. But again, asking for the same Supreme Personality of Godhead, there is a difference. So that we could understand.
So it could be like, I want to own this son, right? This is my son. Something like that, right? That concept of that proprietorship or ownership, right, is coming in slightly. That's where there is a difference, right?
Right, but it was there for Devaki and Vasudeva also, right? But and the only difference is, as you said, from the as you said that he is asking for Supreme Personality of Godhead as a son, and our son similar
You wanted
to
a
him,
son like him and not
like him.
he himself.
So there is a difference between Krishna and the Dattatreya that we could understand.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji. Nice.
Thank you. So if there are no further questions or comments, we'll close the class.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Pancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhu bhaivacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namo ananta koti vaishnav vrinda ki jai.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Hare Bol.
Dandavat pranam Mataji.